Greetings everyone, I am Dr. Wolf and I just watched Dragon Dropped. Rarity has some of the most entertaining expressions I've seen in quite some time here. I am really loving the fact that Tabitha St. Germain got one last chance to really show Rarity at these emotional extremes and just having so much fun with it. I could rewatch this episode just for those expressions alone. However, there is a lot more to enjoy than just the funny faces. I honestly wanted to see more of a story arc come to a close for Spike and Rarity, because it was established in the very first episode in the series that Spike has quite a bit of a crush on Rarity, and that's been going up and down throughout the series. It's more that Rarity likes having Spike around, as this episode shows, because he's actually a really good assistant. He is the #1 assistant after all. I honestly wanted to see exactly what could lie in their future, and maybe having Rarity be the one who wanted Spike around all the time. This is a good way to close out that story arc. It's certainly not giving Rarity and Spike much of a future beyond being friends, and yeah, I think that's a great way to end things. But let's start from the beginning here. Rarity comes to Spike wanting to do another trip to the Gem Cave, and for the first time in the series, we're seeing that Spike really isn't paying attention to Rarity. Spike really has other priorities that he'd prefer doing. And even to the point where he's not hearing what Rarity has to say, that is a bit different from what we've seen from the character. But for the story that the writers are trying to tell here, it fits very nicely. And Gabby, the return of Gabby, and what's more, Spike and Gabby are the ones who really enjoy spending time together. I never would have seen that coming. And yet, at the same time, okay, that really does make sense. As Spike points out, it's kind of interesting that both of them come from cultures that really aren't interested in friendship, and both of them kind of are in the letter-sending business. Okay, I could totally see why they'd become pen pals. And yeah, this is quite a bit different from what we've seen of Spike before, but having him be interested in someone else, that's quite fascinating to me. And what's more, it's not with another dragon, it's with a griffin. I'm guessing Spike just really got used to interspecies relationships. Gabby is still very fun to have around, and yeah, she's mostly positive in this episode, but seeing her have those moments of sadness or feeling betrayed, feeling like she can't trust, given that she's come from a culture where every griffin is basically out for themselves and don't really care about each other's well-being all that much, having Gabby be with Spike, and the first time where she feels like she's being lied to, feeling like she's being betrayed, I can understand why that would hurt her a lot more than it might hurt a lot of other ponies or people or whatever. Given what she's had to deal with growing up, I wonder, this is probably Gabby feeling like, well, every other griffin treats me this way, and now Spike's gonna treat me this way too. That's a little heart-wrenching. And it's pretty good to add to the story to add a bit of conflict. Now, Rarity taking time where she actually misses Spike, where she realizes just how much of a help he's been over the years, and not just for carrying gems and fabrics and gift bags, but also for his genuine opinions on gems and fabrics and whatnot. Just having him around, his presence, is something that Rarity actually treasured. And having a story like this where she has to admit to herself, I really wanted to have Spike around. I really miss having Spike around. So naturally, the next step is, well, Rarity has to have those moments where she wants Spike all to herself, where she kinda has to forget that this might hurt Gabby's feelings in the process. It's a little far for her character to do that, but I can certainly see why she would take those steps. Some fans might feel a little irked that Rarity is taking these steps, but I think it does fit with her character. And yes, it is necessary for the conflict, and yes, it is a very lovely resolution. So I'm okay with all of that. And again, Rarity's emotional highs and lows and all the expressions that come with them are pretty much the entirety of the entertainment in this episode. I have got to go watch some of those scenes again where she's holding up a record player and crying her heart out, trying to apologize. And then having moments where someone like Gabby says, "Why are you apologizing?" "Oh, darling, that doesn't matter." And even later on, Gabby says, "You seem to apologize a lot." I'm loving the writing in this episode. It is definitely worth going back and watching again. It is definitely worth seeing just for closing out a story arc between Spike and Rarity. And having the return of Gabby, even though she's not quite so over-the-top positive and happy as she was in her first appearance, it's still very much her character. She's still adorably cute in what she does. Seeing Spike and Gabby together, yeah, I like how that works. I honestly would have enjoyed seeing more of it, but unfortunately the series is coming to a close, so I guess we're not going to get any more stories about the two of them. But seeing Rarity understand, I really took Spike for granted. I really miss having him around, not just for carrying gems and fabrics and gift bags, but I liked talking to him. I liked hearing his opinions. I liked how he was so helpful in so many different ways. I mean, you look back at the early entries in the series, and yeah, Rarity does not really care that much about Spike, except for the fact that he is so helpful. I am so very glad that over the years, culminating in this kind of story arc ending, that she appreciates him all that much more. Spike really deserves that, and I'm glad the writers took the time to make that happen. And yeah, it's actually fun that not only they go to a gem crevice, but Rarity takes him to a Power Pony Palooza. It's kind of like a Comic-Con in the pony world. And then taking it one step further, that Rarity would want to go for a long session of ogres and oubliettes, and actually portraying the character Sparity. We all know exactly why Spike created that character, and Rarity taking on that role willingly. That's just even more fun. There is so much to enjoy here. There is so much to go back and want to watch again. This is definitely one of the standout entries in MLP Season 9, and that's no small feat. There have been a ton of really good stories this year. But at any rate, I am glad for everything that the writers brought for these two characters and their story kind of coming to an end. And even how the episode comes to an end, that after Spike spent his day with Gabby, he is genuinely interested in helping Rarity and having Rarity time, as he puts it. And yes, the way Twilight puts it, that friendships change, and yeah, Rarity learning the lesson that while kind of like make new friends but keep Discord the way Discord really wanted Fluttershy all to himself, you could see some similarities in the story here, and yet there are some significant differences in that Rarity was successfully having Spike spend more time with her and having to learn the lesson that way rather than having everything spelled out. And again, having her apologize to both Gabby and Spike is a nice touch. So, well done MLP staff. This is still a fantastic way to come to the end of the series. But then, what did each of you think? Given the wealth of fantastic expressions for Rarity, and pretty much the last time I bet we'll get to see Tabitha St. Germain, given the emotional highs and lows, as much entertaining as it is, Can you possibly think of one favorite moment that stands out above all the others? Because I'm having a hard time. Would you have thought that characters like Spike and Gabby could actually really get along? Because I certainly didn't see that coming, and looking back now, okay, that makes way more sense than I would have ever thought. And do you think this is a fair way to bring the Spike and Rarity story arc to a close? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, because as always, I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.